Heyo everybody, Haku here with a bit of a Tower of God history lesson and also some new translation sort of things that I happened upon while doing research for other videos and stuff that I think is worth talking about. Really, I'm framing this around the general idea of one of the things I noticed being that Andorthy and Androssi are just both straight up incorrect, but either way, what I will say at the beginning is continue to use whatever you want. If you prefer Andorthy, continue to use that. Don't let other people tell you what to use or not. Same with, I'm going to continue using Androssi just because I think it looks better, just because I think it sounds better. But really, it's one of those things where either is basically right, but I'll get more into that. Same with like Shiplisu or Shibisu or so many of these other things. I mean, Zahard is straight up correct and Jihad is incorrect, but if you prefer Jihad, again, continue to use that. The official translation uses it. But yeah, I will save that for a little bit after the Tower of God history lesson because I feel like that's important to give first to further explain this. And I think it's just important in general for fans of Tower of God to hear who started reading after 2014, which is like forever ago. But I think the story of Tower of God in a meta sense, not the literal story that's going on in the webtoon, but the story of the webtoon, is something that not everybody, because a lot of people are newer, and obviously there's nothing wrong with that, a lot of people don't know, but I think that the extra information can really be helpful with understanding why certain things are the way they are in the translation, with why certain things are the way they are in the fan base, why certain people say different names for different people and concepts within the series. So I'll start off by saying I started reading in 2011, around the end of season 1, beginning of season 2. I can't like really fully remember because it was way back when I was in school, and I didn't think that remembering that information would be all that important, I'll be real honest with you. So that's back when I started reading, and way back then there was no official line translation. There was only a translation by the Scanlator group, the company, and the translation was really good. It was really good, and it's where a lot of the names come from, like Zahard, like Androssi, Shiplisu, Hatsu, a ton of the names that I still use. Some I've shifted over to, like I totally prefer Shibisu for the most part. I kind of like drift back and forth between Shibisu and Shiplisu, but generally I stick with the company names and stuff because generally they're a lot better. But it was a really good translation, and something that was common with it that's also common with other like unofficial scanlations that I think is a real problem with official translations in general. They always had tons of translators notes, just notes saying this is what this literally was and we translated it this way to make it make sense for English readers, or this is the what's the word I'm looking for? The honorifics that this character uses for this character to explain their relationship a bit better and the way the character speaks a bit better. And it was so good. And I love that because there are tons of like unofficial translations I read for manga all the time that have like sometimes full pages of translators notes, and it's so helpful for understanding like the story. And especially for a story as complicated as Tower of God, because even now there are certain things in the story that I'm like, this is my understanding of it, but because the translation can be wonky and we don't have like a bunch of translators notes or anything, I don't fully know. I could be wrong about plenty of things, just because I'm only reading the English translation. But it was a great translation, and that carried on from when I was reading in 2011 all the way until about 2014, with the 5-month, I think it was like 5-month hiatus between Workshop Battle and Revolution Road. And around the Workshop Battle is when Naver started putting out the line translation, the official English translation. And then over the course of that hiatus, they completely struck the company translation from the internet, which is really sad. I'm like, can't they have just been like, hey, we'll pay you a bit to use your translation because it's really good? Instead of trying to rush and translate the 100 or so chapters that you've already done. Because I think most of you watching this probably, like, at least a lot of you watching this probably came in pre-anime, and if you came in pre-anime but post 2014 and you're just reading the official translation, you know what I'm talking about when I say this. The translation that they put out was awful. Just like all the names were changed in different and stuff, like Andorthy, Hots with a Z, or Jihad with a J. All of that sort of stuff was a product of the new translation, and there were just constant misspellings, terrible grammar. It was really, really bad. And of course, I want to support it because it's official. It helps the creator. But it was a very, very, very bad translation. And it stayed that way for years and years. So there was a real, like, 2014 to 2020 period where I was like, I would always say I'm like the Tower of God's Witness, just out there spreading the word, telling people to read it. But despite that fact, it was kind of embarrassing because people start reading and the translation is just a disaster grammatically and spelling wise. But then when the anime came around in like 2020-ish, they started going back through and fixing it. And even if you go through now, there's still plenty of grammar mistakes, there's still plenty of spelling mistakes, but it is nothing like what it was pre-anime. Pre-anime, it was a disaster. So we lost the really great The Company translation, completely stricken from the internet, which was sad, and we got this really, really rough translation. And then thankfully when the anime came out, they went back through, they fixed a lot of it, they changed a lot of the names, like Line had been using Nobic, and they changed it back to Novik, which was the company name, and they changed a lot of the names back. Changing Arlen when it was spelled Arlene back to Arlen as it should have been. They just went back and fixed a lot of stuff. Now they still kept things like Jihad for some reason. I don't really get that one. Andorthy I totally get. Andorthy makes just as much sense, if not more sense, than Androssi. I just think Androssi looks better. So yeah, that's kind of the story that I wanted to tell, the Tower of God history lesson, for those of you, to explain why there is this disconnect in some people using some names, some people using other names. I did an entire video, it was kind of a while ago, so it might be a little out of date, where I went back through and broke down every single name change. I guess I could probably link that in the comments and description. I did a video on that, talking about all the name differences between Line and the company, and so yeah, I did that. But as I said before, like certain names like Androssi and Dorsey, doesn't matter either way. Use whatever you want. Both are kind of equally correct because English doesn't use all the same sounds that Korean uses, and Korean doesn't use all the same sounds that English uses, and so there's not really an exact approximation of what it is supposed to be, except I did kind of find an official spelling, but we will once again we will get to that. Before that, another translation thing, like I did another video in the past of like how Shinwan Ryu is not Shinzu Black Hole Sphere. That's always been a really bad translation. I do not know why they're determined to stick with that. And like the Mui Jongsu should probably be more like Null Essence or Void Essence or Essence of Nothing rather than Essence of Bravery. But again, that one's not really a huge one. I think Shinwan Ryu is like Shinzu Black Hole Sphere is like a totally misleading translation. Like that is really, really misleading and not at all what the original word says whatsoever. So I really don't get that one. But in addition to that, I came across by accident that, so Zahard's weapon that he uses when he's Data Zahard fighting Bomb and everything, the Lacalicus, is based on an oarfish. Well, the oarfish's actual genus name is Regalicus. And Regalicus, of course, has regal in it, which is kingly, King Zahard. So I actually think that Lacalicus, I prefer the name Lacalicus actually, but I actually think it's supposed to be Regalicus. So I think that's supposed to be Regalicus, because the second stage is coelacanth and the final stage is Leviathan, and of course the coelacanth is a real ancient fish and that's still alive today, and the Leviathan is like this mythological like sea beast. So it kind of makes sense that if the second and third stage names were based on actual things, the first stage would also be based on an actual thing. So Yeah, probably still going to use Lecalicus because I think that it sounds and looks better, but I actually think it's supposed to be Regalicus. And one last thing to bring up before the unveiling of Androssi slash Andorthy's real name is I recently discovered that, so one thing that we've known for a while, Androssi slash Andorthy is a fake name anyway. We don't know her real name. We were kind of like, that's been told to us in the blog post, and they kind of hinted at it a little in Name Hunt Station with the fact that her name was stolen, but she was still using Androssi and everybody was still using Androssi, so I guess that means her real name was stolen. We still don't know her real name, but that's a fake name. What the name that we know for is a fake name? I also recently saw in a blog post, or an old blog post, see you saying nobody knows why Macheni goes by her mother's name. And this is something that, again, I feel like even a lot of Tower of God readers don't know. Kun Macheni and Kun Macheni Zahard are two totally different characters. Kun Macheni is one of Edwan's wives and the presumed mother of Kun Macheni Zahard and Kun Ran. And Kun Macheni Zahard is her daughter. So it's like, so who made up the Kun Macheni spear-bearing technique? Was that the mother or was that the princess? Which one invented it? There might actually be an answer to that, but I did not research it. But yeah, see, you said something along, nobody knows why she goes by her mother's name. I was here assuming the entire time that she was just named after her mother, that she was named Macheni after her mother Macheni. But if she's using her mother's name, then maybe she, like Androssi, is using a fake name, and we don't even know Kun Macheni Zahard's real name, apparently. So that's a possibility. But yeah, really, then now we're gonna get to the actual title of the video. Sorry for taking you on this big long journey, this history lesson, but I thought it was something that would give a lot of extra information for Tower of God fans. What I was talking about before with Zahard just being straight up correct and Jihad incorrect, again, continue to use Jihad if you want. It's totally fine. I think, oh man, what was it? Oh, it was during Dr. Bonehead's reaction to, oh gosh, during his reaction to the screen time video, he said like, Ship Lisu and Hatsu and Zahard, and I was like, oh wow, there's something really cursed about him saying Zahard. But yeah, we have this tweet from back in 2018 where somebody asks if it's Zahard or Jihad, and CU answered Z. So yeah, Zahard officially confirmed way back then, and also way back in season 1. Here's a clip from the official sort of Korean webtoon. We see in the background Yuri Zahard, spelled with that. Also, it's probably named after, I don't know how to pronounce his name. Tons of Tower of God characters named after footballers. Eden Hazard, it's probably named after, or he's probably named after him, but with the H and Z swapped. So yeah, it's Zahard. And then I discovered the most cursed thing. I had seen like fan translations of the blog posts say Andorthy before instead of Androssi or Andorthy. Really, the actual Korean word is like Endorushi. So again, if we're going by, like, I feel like it's closer to N than An, and I think Androssi leaves out the sort of do sound. It just like leaves out the vowel there, and Andorthy leaves out the ru sound, so it leaves out the vowel there. And they both go C instead of she at the end, so they're both wrong in that respect. But I found this tweet from CU all the way back in 2013, and in this tweet, he did a sketch of Androssi, and as you can see there, he named her Andorthy Zahard. So there we are, the legacy, the history of Tower of God, and how that brought me to the conclusion that I'm still gonna say Androssi, but her name is not Androssi or Andorthy. She is canonically Andorthy Zahard. It's cursed. So I guess do with that what you will, but now we know that, yeah, her name's Andorthy. And with that entirely too long video over with, sorry for making it so long. Thank you for sticking with it. I just wanted to talk about Tower of God for a while. I just wanted to talk about the Legalicus Regalicus Macalculus stuff that I randomly discovered when looking up Tower of God stuff. And also the fact that she's Andorthy. I just wanted to talk about all that. Talk about the Machete stuff because I had assumed she was named after her mom, but I guess maybe not. Maybe it's a fake name. That's a surprise to me. Did not know that one. Did not expect that one. And I also thought that talking about sort of the history of Tower of God in a meta sense in the translation from somebody who's been around could be extremely helpful, because I've like jumped into so many series where I think it would be nice to have an explanation for why things are a certain way with the series. And Tower of God is especially a special case, given that the translation has changed so drastically from the incredible company translation to the awful pre-anime line translation to the flawed but much better, much better post-anime line translation. I just thought that history lesson would be really helpful for people that weren't around through all of it. But I feel like a lot of you were around, at least for the really bad line translation days. I feel like a lot of you were around for that for sure. But I feel like there's so many people now that don't remember the old company days, which is to be expected, honestly. But yeah, I just wanted to thank you all for watching. I just wanted to say a huge thank you. Comment down there whatever you want, whichever names you prefer. And I'm always happy to talk with you down in the comments about Tower of God and anything else. Same goes on Twitter if you follow there, or on the Discord server if you want to ask. I'll give you a link to it. I'm always willing to talk about Tower of God with everybody, and other series too. If you want to help support the channel on Patreon, it's patreon.com/HakuofTheTubes, or a link will be in the description. Thank you to everybody who are already patrons. It really does help me to continue to make videos. And yeah, sorry the video ended up so long, but I'm gonna go record my reaction to the new chapter now. I recorded this while waiting for it to come out, just sitting around waiting. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you all next time.